Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it happens to be where you are. My name is Jeff Rolka, and welcome to your live event. What is it? It's April 15th, tax day here in the US, so that's good. Or not, depending on how all that works with you. I did mine quite a long time ago, so it's sort of forgotten. Good morning, good afternoon, JC's Radiant Ray. Hey, this is a new URL. Hello, Bishy J Official. Welcome to our weekly live event. This is the 1 year anniversary. Hello, Tadeus. 1 year of live events. Hello, Ronaldo. Which seems like it's gone by in an absolute flash. Hello, Natasha. Yeah, live event 52. Now, admittedly, there were a couple weeks in there where I know I took at least 1 week off for illness, which was almost a year ago. It was right when things were getting started. Hello, Gerald Ryan. Or I should say, good morning, Gerald Ryan. It's late or early where you are, depending on how you think about it. Heidi, hello, good evening to you. Welcome. 1 year of live events. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Hello, Lola. Welcome. So yeah, I feel like I should have a cake or something like that prepared. But thank you, Capone. Yeah, hey, Gerald Ryan's cool, huh? But there's going to be an awful lot of really cool celebrations coming up here with the channel in the very, very near future. And if I keep on eating all of it's just going to end up poorly if I eat all these cakes. So I did not lobby for a cake today. But thank you all. You know, it's all down to you all for being here and making these live events so much fun, for asking the questions, for talking to one another, for just throwing out really, really fun stuff that, again, I think we all benefit from. I feel like I benefit from these chats, and just awesome. So welcome, and the chat is clearly open. So I'm just going to dive right in. Thank you if you've chosen to subscribe, and if you haven't yet, of course, I would love it if you would choose to do so. Seems like there was something else I was supposed to mention. Oh, warm-up videos. I know a question about new warm-ups. My piano is currently steaming north towards Los Angeles port, and it's got to stop there. And then it'll go to the port of Oakland, and then it has to clear customs. So, and then I have to wait at least a week before for things to settle down. But new warm-ups will be coming. New warm-ups will be coming. I'm going to keep on knocking down the quick tips until then. But thank you for your patience. And I've got all kinds of, the chromatic thing is going to come out. We're going to do some more extended range. I'm going to do another comprehensive vowel treatise. It's going to be awesome. So thank you for your patience. Bishy J Official says, hello to the basses, baritones, tenors, altos, mezzos, sopranos, and sopranos. Carolina from Sweden. Hello. Hello in Sweden. Haley Bissett. Jeff, you've helped me so much. Brilliant. That's awesome. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us this morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it happens to be for you. Welcome. If you've got questions, this is the place. Dre Mac, if your voice cracks when singing, what to do? Very interesting question. Kind of depends on where you are in your tessitura or your overall range, like if you're in the zona de passaggio, if you're lower down. In the zona de passaggio, it is, and this is kind of a generic answer, so there's going to be you need to be a bit more specific with it. It's an imbalance between vocal fold engagement and the amount of airflow that you have. This usually happens when you're starting to reduce vocal fold engagement and the airflow hasn't quite caught up to it so that the vocal fold has enough airflow to remain adducted or closed. And then when that happens, we crack. When we're practicing, this can kind of be a good sign. It means that you're moving in the right direction. Obviously, it can be disconcerting in your practices, or certainly if you're performing and your voice cracks, that's not what you want. Keep rotating through the skill sets. Rotate through your adduction. That's like the short stuff. We. Rotate through your exercises or the airflow. Looking for a consistent airflow. and then keep at it, keep on looking at those things, and it will get better. Michael Zimmons, hi Jeff, hello. Striker Kane, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Today, I have a very light mixed voice. Will erasing the break make it chestier and stronger? How long will it take to erase it? Brilliant questions. I never want to put... I'm always reluctant to put time frames on things because I don't know necessarily how diligent you will be in your practice. If you are incredibly focused and on this thing, then you could improve your transition technique in a matter of weeks. If you're not, then it could take as long, or it could never really. If you really are that undisciplined in your practice, it might never really get to where you want it to be. Which is why I'm always an advocate of figuring out a sustainable practice regimen and sticking to it. If it's 10 or 15 minutes a day, stick to it. Whatever you can do that's sustainable. So yes, you will be able to maintain greater adduction of the vocal fold and a greater resonance through the zona di passaggio as you practice and get your registration event or transition technique sorted out so that it's really, really smooth and connected. That's what the whole connection is about, is making that resonance carry through the zona di passaggio into the cricothyroid dominant singing voice. So in English, zona di passaggio, mixed voice, cricothyroid dominant singing voice, head voice. And how long it takes is kind of up to you. Yeah, 1 a.m., Gerald Ryan. I'm always in awe that you are burning the midnight oil. Peekaboo, where are you? I'm in Northern California, not too far north, like around San Francisco. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. Capone at Tadeus, first strong Ched voice. Think balanced. A balanced approach to the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice or chest voice is going to make it easier to balance the transitional muscle engagement. So as you go from thyroarytenoid dominant to cricothyroid dominant, balanced in the chest. Thank you, Haley. That's very kind of you, and I truly appreciate it. Wow. Dre, crack voice. Not sure what that means exactly. Ronaldo, yes. I relocated to the Bay Area of California, so I'm back in the USA. Not quite, if you know what I'm saying. That might be a little bit of an obscure pun. If it's even a pun, it's just a Beatles song title that I've appropriated there. Today, I've been doing the tenor extended range warm-up for 2 months now. What does this warm-up mainly focus on, and when will I see major results? Well, it's mostly focusing on extended range. So the idea is that your transition... See, the thing is Tateus, you just asked the question about perfecting your transition technique, and if you're using that warm-up, those are not necessarily complementary practices. I would recommend you focus primarily on the transition over the secondo passaggio first. The extended range warm-up for tenors is going to go over the secondo passaggio and as well over the next registration event, which for tenor range vocalists happens around B flat 4, B4, give or take. And your technique there is kind of predicated on being able to have a really, really consistent transition over the secondo passaggio. So the main focus is on, I wanted to say strengthening. I usually shy away from that word, but it's enhancing the facility, getting practice singing into the next registration event. And for those that are really solid in their technique over the secondo passaggio, it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the more that we do that, again, with good discipline and good observational skills, so that we're listening carefully, we're monitoring the sounds and the transition, then we're just going to get more and more solid on singing into our upper register. As to when you'll see major results, again, that's up to you and how you practice. Your results will vary based upon how you practice, not so much what you practice. And if you're not entirely solid on the transition through the secondo passaggio, I would recommend you stick to the full range warm-ups rather than the extended range. And I would review those videos that go over the registration event technique. So how to sing head voice, the how to sing high notes for for male vocalists. Those are good ways to just review your technique and make sure that you're practicing correctly. Greg, is there a muscular difference between lowering your larynx stylistically and tilting the larynx with the CT muscle for high notes? Okay, so, yes. The height of the larynx is more related to airflow. It's not actually the larynx that tilts, it's the hyoid cartilage that tilts forward when the posterior and anterior cricothyroid muscles engage. And that hyoid cartilage is connected to the vocal fold, and that's what lengthens it to give us that seamless transition. So, but obviously we have to remain loose enough between the thyroarytenoid muscles and the cricothyroid muscles so that the posterior and anterior cricothyroid muscles can engage, rotate the hyoid cartilage, elongate the vocal fold. So it's two fundamentally different things. Additionally, I would add that typically the height of the larynx is more related to the tongue root musculature, and I must admit the actual names of those muscles escapes me right at this moment. So stylistically, you're talking about lowering the larynx stylistically, that's actually a very, very astute either observation or question here, in that larynx height is much more related to the different styles reflected in the various genres than any other aspects of the technique that we practice. Singer's formant, resonance, all of those things in various applications are required, and we practice them in similar fashions. It's that height of the larynx that will have quite an impact, particularly between the so-called popular genres and classical genres. Hey Mandy, welcome. Good to see you here. Today is at Capone. Mrs. Webster, hello all. Good to see everyone here. Natasha says hello to everybody. Gerald Ryan, more for tenor, please. Yeah, absolutely. It's coming. It's coming. I'm waiting for my equipment to arrive. That's basically it. And if I could record this piano in a way that I felt was appropriate for release, I would do so. But this piano does not have the kind of audio outputs that I need to do a professional recording. From Barbados, for those in the chat, finally made it to office hours. Sarah Evelina, what is the best way to teach kids to sing? Depends on the age, depends a lot on the age. I would say 5 and below, whatever. Like, think short, repetitive phrases, silliness is good, and I would say you should dance around a little bit as well. That seems to help. Beyond 5, and honestly into the 6-ish kind of area, kind of the same. You know, then you start getting into some real developmental changes from 7 through 10, because from there they'll go from kind of being able to really focus on singing a song, though I would still keep them fairly basic, and I would move through them reasonably quickly. And by 10, they're ready for instrumental music in the wind ensemble program. Now, of course, if they're a piano or string player, they may have already been playing for 5 years at that time. But for woodwind, brasswind, which is more typical in public school band programs, that's about the age that they will, get a flute or a saxophone or a clarinet or, some drumsticks in hand. They may have had recorder or some other type of flute before that, which I think is entirely appropriate and speaking to those in the US, fourth graders, man, they love recorders. And when I taught that, it was always an absolute blast. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. But singing, I think that, yeah, and you know, really, once we're into instrumental music, then you can really start to do more, you know, more songs, perhaps more complicated songs that have a variety of parts. We didn't get to harmonization until much later in my upbringing and public school education. As a teacher, teaching choir, I had kind of limited amounts of success with harmony singing, in my experience, below the age of 10 or 11, but that's not to say that it cannot be done. Certainly, you think about King's College Choir, which is an incredibly famous choir, like those young folks are singing in harmony all the time. JC's rating rate at Mandy Cummins. Bhavya, how can I not involve my swallowing muscles while singing? Well, they kind of are involved in singing. It's how you use them that is the thing. Ideally, we want them to be available for movement if it's required for the consonant that we're using, or passive if they are not required. And I did a video, I think it's called How to Reduce Tongue Tension. And that has some pretty good starter exercises for becoming aware of tension in the tongue, and subsequently the process that I use to help people release it. So if you can check that out and then maybe check back in here at a live event and we can discuss it more fully. It involves holding the tongue out and then going through stages where you're holding it, not holding it, leaving it on the top lip, and then on the top teeth, and then finally in what would be a more neutral singing position in the well of the mouth. But those muscles, learning to release the musculature typically involves doing something else before the musculature will release, based purely on conscious thought. Because a lot of those muscle engagements are unconscious. You're not thinking about them as you're doing them. It's just become a habit over time. Natasha, I hope there's something on the screen. Can everyone see me? Can you see me? Let me see here. Let's see if I can see myself. Yeah, it looks like I should be on screen. Sorry if I'm not coming up wherever you are. Mrs. Webster at Sarah Evelina. Excellent. Yeah, I 100% enthusiasm. The thing with young individuals in really vocal or instrumental music is to get them excited. You know, you want to get them excited about what they're doing. Haley Bissett, I sound so much better without straining, but have little power. Power comes from resonance. Focus on the resonance in your voice and the application of greater airflow to increase that resonance with time. And you will find that you've got more than enough power. Tadeus, I can have a smooth transition from mixed voice to chest voice when I'm descending, but I can't when ascending. That's absolutely. So you're about a quarter of the way into the practice, really. If you're doing scalar stuff descending, go back to the widest intervals that you can do, descending and ascending. So, for example, you know, maybe you can only do a siren. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Then try to get your octave arpeggios to go you, 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 you. When that works for you, make it just a regular arpeggio. You, 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 you. And then you can really start thinking about you, 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 you. working on that transition back and forth, back and forth. When you can reliably go down, up, then you, up and down, and then start working on your resonance. So that you match better across the secondo passaggio. So today, if you can't do it, I'm sorry to say, if you can't do it ascending, that's not a smooth transition. You know, if it's only one direction, then your technique and ascending. You see, the thing is and that kind of plays right into what I was talking about before. Ascending scalar patterns typically reflect our old habits more so than the descending. That's why my registration event techniques always begin with descending patterns. I'm trying to circumvent your old singing habits. When you do the ascending, those habits come back into play. So when you do the descending, try to really clue into what it feels like in the physical experience of it, and then try to emulate that physical experience as you ascend. Then you're going to start being more successful with your ascending patterns, and then you can start worrying about resonance, and then you can start worrying about extending your range into those extended range warm-ups. Hello, Karina Chen, and she says hello to all of you. John Wheeler, are you from USA originally? Yes, I grew up in Michigan. I moved to California in 1997. I moved to England in 2013, and now I'm back. Michael, welcome, and he says hello to all of you. You're very welcome, Haley. Thank you for stopping by. Michael, I get the user ID now, Simmons. I'm a Gene Simmons tribute artist, which actually, that is a brilliant user ID. I applaud you for that. I am a Gene Simmons tribute artist, and your vocal instruction videos have helped me a lot. Thank you, and keep the videos coming. I promise I will, and thank you for watching. And if there's anything on YouTube, I would love to have a look. I would love, if you guys are doing like the full-on, if you're doing Gene Simmons, then you might not be doing all the costume stuff. But if you are, I would love to check it out. For those of you that aren't familiar with Gene Simmons' work, he was the lead singer for Kiss. JC's Radiant Ray is retracted. Mrs. Webster, ooh, I like it when you mention new things I hadn't thought of. Thank you, Jeff. I hadn't even thought of some exercises being contrary to each other, but I see how that would work. Indeed. Bhavya, when I sing the ah vowel, it's not accurate. It's not consistent. Yeah, very common. Particularly with the wider vowels, ah and o especially, the schwa vowel too. Pick a vowel that is consistent. Usually it's a, and that's very convenient because a is very similar to ah in the way it's formed in the oral cavity in your mouth. And in the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, the chest voice, compare and contrast the two. Pardon me. Looking for them to be similar. If you find that even that is too much of a stretch, and I know this kind of makes things seem like it should be more difficult because you're going to put another vowel in here, but do the exercise with the ah vowel sandwiched between the two narrow forward-focusing vowels. So either E, I, A, or preferably A, I, E. And what you may find is that ah comes nicely into focus. Then you have to try removing one of those and see if you can still do it. And once you can do that, things will start to come along more quickly. Bishy J official, guys, if you want to see log onto a computer, mobile doesn't allow the live video. Oh, interesting. I did not know that. That's really, really good information. Thank you for sharing that. Because every once in a while, someone says that there's no video, And I never knew why, because other people would say, oh, you know, I can see just fine. Thank you. Natasha. I was wondering, when I try to do the mezzo-soprano exercises that go above the secondo passaggio, I struggle to sing above it. It's like my words don't come out, or it makes a disturbing sound. Yeah, I mean, if you have not specifically practiced registration event technique, then you might get lucky and be able to make a transition smoothly into your cricothyroid dominant singing voice. Typically, that is not what happens, and we either strain or we get a falsetto tone production, neither of which will ultimately connect or sound like the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice. There are at least 2 or 3 how to sing in head voice videos for mezzos. Check that out. Maybe come on back next week and we can talk more about it. That would be a place to start. And I would submit to you as well that registration event technique can take a little bit of time and practice. So you may have to be patient before your voice really matches above the secondo passaggio. Beamer ball, John here. How can I get more air? I am transitioning from large choral singing, where the director constantly says, waste air, to ensemble singing, where I can't take turns breathing. Focus on the efficiency of phonation. So, presumably, if you're wasting air, then I would suspect that you're allowing for a partial abduction of the vocal fold. That means partial separation. For example, if I sang A and R or something like that, with a well-adducted vocal fold, A, R, if I separate that a little bit, A, R, it softens it up quite nicely. But I could feel how much air I lost in doing that. You know what? Probably, without knowing more about your past training, I would suggest to you there's a chord closure video that's out there, and I think it's called Chord Closure, and it addresses specifically what I was just talking about vocal fold adduction. Adduction is when they come together. Abduction is when they're separated. Have a look into that. There's also another video that's called How to Sing with Less Breathiness in Your Voice, and it's been a while since I did that video or seen it, but it's going to address I believe that video addresses in a practicing standpoint, like you're going to practice along with the video, what I talk about in the chord closure video. So you might take a look at those two and then apply those principles to your regular practice or the other things that you're working on here on the channel. Another video that might be helpful, particularly because these things can be habit forming, is the tonal onset videos. Because oftentimes we get into the habit of how we start singing, and that it's almost like a different skill set from what we're doing in the middle of a note. There's the start, and then there's the duration, and very frequently I will hear those two things being dealt with differently. Obviously they work together, and the more efficient our tonal onset, the easier and more efficient we will be. Easier it is to become more efficient with the duration of the pitch. And it's probably because this is the 1-year anniversary of our live event, but I am reminded now that we're about halfway through, and I should do my station identification. So my name's Jeff. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your questions. This is wonderful. Please do consider subscribing if you have not already. And it seems, I feel like there's something else I was supposed to mention, but it just escapes me. So I'm just going to carry on here. Red Karen, not a user ID. Actually, Beamerball too. Welcome to the live event. I don't recognize your user IDs. And thank you for joining us today. Red Karen, I found your videos a few months ago when I joined my first choir as an adult. Hadn't sang since I was 9 years old, was terrified. Your warm-up videos and general support has helped me every week. Brilliant. That's awesome. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. And fantastic. And I just want to say a big thank you. Brilliant. Thank you so much. I am happy to have assisted you in the digital domain. Mrs. Webster, when you talk about engagement, could you please clarify what physical things are we trying to pay attention to? Abs, throat, larynx, brain, for sure. You have such a wonderful way with words. I don't know why, but there's something about that that's really cool. Yeah, I avoid the word support because it has been used so much, and in my opinion, has been used to indicate, I don't want to gratify it with the name technique, but a technique for airflow in singing, and it's been used for such a long time that it's basically become meaningless. Like, we're told over and over again to support, 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 without the actual talking about the musculature. When I talk about engagement, I am talking about the musculature involved in expanding the rib cage laterally and maintaining it. So it's not like it goes and then we can release it. It goes and it stays. Hence the idea of perpetual engagement. When we have that lateral expansion, the oblique muscles and the rectus abdominis muscles are then allowed to lift towards the sternum. Not a crushing kind of gut punch engagement, but a lateral expansion and a lifting. You know, if you've got loops in your trousers and you hook your fingers on the loops and get up on the balls of your feet and kind of bounce and pretend to pick up your trousers, that's the kind of lifting in the abdominal muscles that I'm talking about. It's a persistence. Hence why I talk about engagement, because it's this kind of expansion and this kind of a lift, and it is ongoing and maintained, and it is especially done so when you are inhaling as well as singing. So the process of taking a breath is more a re-engagement of that lateral expansion. The breath comes very quickly when you do that, and we maintain that engagement in the rectus abdominis muscles and oblique muscles, so they don't relax, they stay engaged. Again, not a crushing engagement, a persistent engagement, a persistent tension. And that is what makes us then get so quickly back into the next phrase or the next tonal onset. This is in the Frizzell technique, if I remember correctly and if I've said it correctly. There's this additional myth about expanding one's lung capacity. You get what you get. You have a certain volume of capacity in the lungs. I know this is another one of those hotly debated items. But duration of phrase is more about efficiency of phonation, efficiency of the vowels, and also where you are in your range. Higher up requires more airflow to match timbre, and so you're not going to get quite as long a phrase. But with really great engagement and really excellent lateral expansion, the breaths come so quickly you can take them more frequently, and no one will ever know that you are taking breaths, especially in a song that has lyrics, because there are natural breaks in the phrases. Ronaldo, Maestro, what is the future of singing? Do you think that singers will use machines to manipulate their voices with different effects, like extreme high octaves? I'm not talking about auto-tune. Well, that's already happening, quite frankly. What I hope will happen is that, and this is kind of happening, I'm a NATS member. It's the National Alliance of Teachers of Singing. And I haven't yet attended their conventions, which happen every other year. But what is starting to happen is that we are starting to see a bit of a codification of techniques, where like the technique that I am teaching on this channel is directly derived from the same technique that bel canto and opera singers use. But I'm changing things slightly to apply it to popular genres, but the foundation of it is quite the same. NATS members are typically classical singers and opera singers, and what we're starting to see is that we're starting to see these two worlds come together. Grudgingly, a little bit from the classical side, from the what I might call the old guard. But things are slowly coming together, and my hope is that the future of singing is going to be more and more online instruction and interaction like this, that's going to make it easier for anyone who wants to sing and use their voice efficiently and sustainably and like at the peak of their capacity. It's going to be easier and easier for people to access that kind of information. That's what this is all about, is to try to make it possible. Because I personally struggled with all of these old myths about singing, you know, like for everything from you either have it or you don't, to you got to stick your stomach out, to you need to stretch your chest voice, to you just keep pushing higher and higher, like all of those things. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to clear away some of the myths, present the information as I have understood it. And again, please don't take my word for anything. The things are out there to read. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to understand it, and you may have to do a bit of like, you know, touching up on your vocabulary. But yeah, that's what I think the future of singing is. You're very welcome, Sarah Evelina. Ronaldo, do you think that there should be a revolution in postmodern era of music? I mean, we are in the 21st century. Music is kind of the same like the 20th century. Well, I don't know if it is. I mean, yes, it is, certainly. And fundamentally, we are still utilizing the same system of rules around melody and harmony that Bach codified, right? I mean, this system, Western tonal music, it was codified by J.S. Bach. That's what we get from his chorales and all of the fugues and things like that, the rules that we follow. Popular music frequently breaks those rules. And I would suggest as well that I find it very interesting, things like Bollywood. Like when I've had the opportunity to work with vocalists from India that are doing Bollywood tunes, that is a very interesting juxtaposition of styles, because in everything that isn't traditional music will have very standard Western tonal accompaniment parts. So like the backing track will have that kind of a, I mean, that's a pretty cheesy chord progression, but we'll have chord progressions similar to that. But the melodies will incorporate some of the elements of raga and things like that. And I find that very interesting because it is something different that we do not hear so much here in the United States. In the United States, I find it quite intriguing when you have elements of other scale systems that are utilized in a more or less diatonic framework. So what that means, if that's a little bit obtuse, what that basically means is it's like the blues without the blues thing. So if you got somebody that's doing there's nothing that I played harmonically that suggests there should be an E flat in the melody. And yet I sang it over and over and over again. And one might say that's an element of the blues, and that's true. But the blues would have also had a minor 7 that would have softened the effect of that E flat somewhat in the melody, which I did not include in my harmonic portrayal of it here. So that can be a little bit subtle, but I feel like our ears pick that up nonetheless. And I think those subtleties exist, but unfortunately, you know, especially in like the corporate pop world, music has become simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler to where many pop tunes will, have 2 chords, 4 chords max a lot of the times. And the melodies are not necessarily reflective of any kind of other disciplines or tonalities. Nick, love your bass warmths, use them on my way to perform. Awesome. And Estelle teaches uses twang. What do you think about that? I would have to look up Estelle teaching to understand and comment on it more frequently. If by twang you mean the witchy sound in the zona di passaggio, I would be a bit cautious about that, because if you're not abducting or separating the vocal folds in the zona di passaggio, then you could be correcting for something that you don't need to correct for. If you're talking about general resonance, then it's an absolute necessity. It's just a question of how much of it, and that depends on genre. Striker Kane at Bavia, Sarah Avina Lindquist, I see you, brilliant. Tadeus, we can see you, good. Yes, I see you, yeah, thank you. I know I've gotten way behind. I'm going to try to get through everybody's questions today. Please forgive me if I don't quite make it. Bishy J Official, hey Jeff, does singing in the passaggio improve over time with practice? Is breath control and vowels the foundation? Many thanks. Yes. The short answer is absolutely yes. It goes, understand too, we have to practice well. I don't know if I probably don't mention this quite as much as I ought to, but observation is crucial to our growth in these things. Particularly if you're using the YouTube videos and you're not meeting with a teacher or getting any kind of things like that. Record yourself from time to time. It doesn't have to be every day, but once every 2 weeks. Just do a short recording of your vocalizations and save it. You don't even have to listen to it. Review it in 2 months' time when you have more objectivity and separation from it. Notice and become aware of the physical sensations. I say that quite frequently in my private teaching. We must become aware or work towards being aware of the physical sensations, because that will guide us to more consistent overall phonation. But yes, you have it correct. Mandy, hopefully you get to my question. Well, here we go. I'm not hoarse, which is good. My vocal cords aren't inflamed, but I have a nasty sinusitis and therefore lots of pressure in my head. The gig tomorrow, any advice? Oof. A neti pot or a steam could help with that. It could break up some of that stuff in your sinus cavities. But you're going to have to probably do quite a bit of it. Be careful with that stuff. You can if it's too hot, you can really, really hurt yourself. So be careful if you steam. There are more drastic measures. However, I would loathe to suggest it without you talking to your ENT or your GP. But there are lots of over-the-counter things, like guaifenesin, which is a mucal inhibitor, and it'll dry you out. Obviously, if you have a really bad headache, some over-the-counter painkillers too. But again, you should really see your GP and consult them on the usage of those sorts of things. Nick, even on your phone? Striker Kane at Mrs. Mandy Cummins, because of my sinusitis and all the pressure in my head, I haven't been able to practice my sirens or really use my head voice. It is annoying, isn't it? That being said, if you're not doing it, then you don't know if you can necessarily vocalize over it. So unfortunately, sometimes rest is what's required. Yeah. And you know what? I thank you, Striker. I think you're talking to Mrs. Webster, but you know what? I've been forgetting to mention that there's a Facebook group called Sequencer, and a lot of us interact and post things. I'm trying to be more involved in it. I got involved early on, and then I've been very busy with my move, my relocation. But I do pop in pretty frequently to comment on this or comment on that. But it's a great place to share recordings and to get information and to just share resources together. Mrs. Webster at Michael Simmons. Mandy Cummins, I think it's a setting that you can make, Jeff, to make it available for mobile. Oh, okay. I did not know that. So that may be part of the issue with mobile as well. Tom, another new user ID. I hope you're still out there. Thank you for joining us here, and thank you for checking out the exercises. I'm glad you like them. Striker Kane, I'm on mobile and see fine, but also am playing video at the same time. Brilliant. JC's Radiant Ray, I agree with Striker. I can watch live on tablet and mobile. Natasha, thanks for the advice, Jeff. You'll do that? Brilliant. Mrs. Webster mentioned sequencer. Was that what you missed? That's just the Facebook group. Jake 3048, Beamer Ball, thanks so much. Well, research for those videos you mentioned. Brilliant. Jake, what's your opinion on bridging the passaggio early versus bridging as late as possible? I'm told, I lost my place. I'm told from my bel canto trained teacher that bridging late will develop a strong chest voice mix. Is this true? Okay, true versus opinion is a very different thing. So I would okay, so I don't agree with that. But it also depends on, you know, they say bridging late, but not necessarily as far as you can go. I work towards finding the latest yet most natural point of transition for myself and for the vocalists that I work with. So, in the tenor voice, the primo passaggio is right around C4. It's conceivable that one could, in fact, make the transition C sharp, D4, if you really wanted to. You can do that. I do not advocate for that. The secondo passaggio in the tenor voice is typically at F4, F sharp 4. And that is where I recommend the tipping point occur, where you're then, beyond that point, you're in cricothyroid dominant singing voice. It's conceivable to push it higher. However, when you then do transition, so let's say you pushed it out to G or G sharp, and then you tried to transition to A, it will be vastly more difficult. And the likelihood that you will skate off the vocal fold or abduct it, separate it, is far higher. Additionally, pushing the thyroarytenoid musculature to go higher and higher, while one would suspect that working out the muscle would make it stronger, in this particular instance, it just means that the cricothyroid musculature does not come into parity, doesn't get commensurately strong with the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, and it makes the overall transition much more difficult and much more noticeable and clunkier, in my experience. But, you know, I'm sure that your instructor has their reasons. If that works for you, then great. If you're not getting the results you think you ought to be getting or want, then I would think about it a little bit more. Natasha, I love your AAA method. When I ran in my athletics practice, I could actually feel how I worked the muscles. So thanks. Brilliant. Wonderful. Capone, my Oz sound with Finnish characters, but I'm aware of that. Singing teacher told me 8 years ago. That's kind of cool. JC's Radio A question. Jeff, a few days ago, I and a mezzo were practicing just singing with the guys in a band. We were fine by ourselves, just the girls, despite having different parts, but for a short while we struggled when the two male voices were added. Why? Very interesting. Well, it would be. I would like to know what happened. You know, like if you changed keys, then that could obviously, to accommodate the male vocalists, that could certainly incorporate some issues. If they were singing a harmony part to your melody, it's possible that that can sort of pull you off kilter. If you're normally singing lead and then a harmony part emerges and you're not accustomed to it, that can kind of unsettle things for a moment. Additionally, if you've gone from a lead role to a harmony role, even if you're singing the same thing, just the action of following someone else's phrasing instead of setting the pace yourself can create issues. And also, I'm sort of going on the assumption that you all know the melody and you all are singing exactly, the melody either in unison or an octave apart. If now you've got 4 people talking too, or 4 people singing. If somebody's not adhering exactly to the melody, then that's gonna make everyone kind of question where your next note is supposed to be. Maybe elaborate on that if you care to, and I can address it more completely. Tom, my largest fall down as a singer is when I'm asked to harmonize with a friend in one of their shows or in a shared show. I see people who grew up doing this have a much easier time. Thoughts? Yeah, man. I mean, well, first of all, the short term, maybe like check out. There's at least a couple harmonization videos that are on the channel. Like, dig in there and practice some of that stuff. Another thing that you can do is if you've got any recordings of yourself, or like just make a simple recording of a really straightforward song on your phone, and then and make it like a little like start with descant harmony. So start with singing on top of the melody line or above it by a third, typically. So pick like a kind of comfortably low area to sing the melody, and then just listen to the recording and harmonize along with yourself. Just practice that way. The long-term practice for this, I think it's very helpful to learn solfege, because that can enable you to pick a variety of harmonies and also begin to understand in a more intimate way, melodically, where your harmonies can go based upon what the lead is doing. And to take it a further step than that is of course to read music, so that you can concretely look at what someone is singing or has sung, and then really, really create harmony parts that take advantage of the harmonic intricacies that are part of the song. Because just by going a third above someone, you may or may not necessarily incorporate all of the harmonic nuance that is in the chord progressions. But first steps first. Check out the harmony videos. Practice along for a little while. There's at least a couple. There's a bunch of sing-along stuff, and then record yourself, harmonize with yourself. As I think about it too, I just did a messa di voce inspired video just like, I don't know, 8-10 weeks ago. And in that video, I give you both, it's not tagged as a harmony video, but I talk you through like main melody lines and some optional harmony parts that you can do in the exercises. And that would be one. That would probably be a really fun one to start with, because there you're singing along with chords. So, you can do E, A, sorry, E, A, O, and then I also say you can also do the third. E, A, O, and that can be a lot of fun and good vocal practice too. Kano. Hi, I just stumbled upon another of your videos on singing and saw you were streaming live. I subscribed, thank you, and will be looking at your videos. I'm taking 30-minute voice lessons. Awesome, but they're not enough. Cool, well, there's like almost 500 videos, and I'm here every Saturday. This is the 1-year anniversary. 1 year anniversary, 1 year of live events. So yeah, thank you for joining the crew, and welcome. I hope to see you again. Mrs. Webster at Mandy Cummins, JC's Ray at Kano. Jake, how can one develop a stronger chest voice mix? Focus on resonance. I'm gonna speed it up here to try to get what I got on screen. Yeah, focus on your resonance, focus on your airflow. If you start squeezing things out, you will find that it is ultimately self-defeating. Granite, hello. I'm a young student. I'm 18 years old singer. As a voice type, I am a tenor, but I can't reach the high notes yet. Be natural. What is your opinion? Thanks. Keep practicing. Focus on your airflow. If your transition through the secondo passaggio is not smooth, check out the How to Sing Head Voice videos. They will help you with that. And then beyond that, it's simply a matter of working towards smooth transitions, excellent engagement, and once you get beyond A4, your G sharp 4, A4, you're going to need a lot more engagement and airflow as you ascend towards your next transition point. So that then begins almost another kind of study in engagement and increased airflow. Gerald Ryan is saying, happy anniversary to all of you. Many of you have been here with me this entire year, and so thank you again. Mrs. Webster at Stryker, and actually, happy anniversary to you, Gerald Ryan. You know, it's like pushing 2 a.m. where you are. Man, it's amazing. Never ceases to amaze me. Mrs. Webster at Stryker, Mandy Cummins, I tried to find a sequencer, but I couldn't. I will post a link to you, Mandy, no worries. Mrs. Webster at Natasha, Stryker at Mrs. Webster, George Demai, thank you. Pardon me. By the way, welcome, George Demayan, sorry. New user ID I haven't recognized. Welcome to our live event. This is your live event too. Thank you for your vids. I'm a musical theater singer. Brilliant. I have some problems with my falsetto, like the one in Gethsemane. I barely reached the note, and in keeping it for more than 3 or 4 seconds. Advice. If I remember correctly, that's like a... Is that the G5? Am I thinking of that correctly? And if that's the case, yeah, that's tough to get up there. I mean, that's tough. And particularly if by dramatic tenor you mean tenor robusto, then that G5. Now, if you're meaning more of a lyric tenor, that's not such a big deal. But for the dramatic tenors, the tenor robusto, then G5 is quite a stretch. The short answer is to practice with a do the super lip trill. Doing 1 octave arpeggios, ascending and descending, or if you can't ascend, then try just descending. You really need so much engagement in order to keep the voice released at that range. And again, if I'm thinking of it correctly, if that's the G5 in the repertoire, yeah, you just need so much airflow in order to sustain that. If you're not able to sustain it, it's almost certainly because the tension around the larynx is closing things down. See, Nicole, just want to say you're awesome. Thank you. I noticed an improvement in my upper mix within 2 weeks. Brilliant. Thank you for your videos. You're very welcome. Again, that's another new idea I don't recognize. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And welcome. Please feel free to check back if you find you have questions. Mandy Cummins at Tom Quiche. That's about harmonization? Yeah, it is. You know what? You're absolutely right, Mandy. It is an aspect of ear training. Absolutely right. JC's rating Ray. 2 of us had the melody, the baritone, and octave apart. And 2, the tenor and mezzo had the harmony. Interesting. I had not thought about the phrasing might be different. Yeah, that's confusing. All of that is just so. The thing that I would do is, and you're going to have all kinds of parallel motion with all those octaves like floating around all over the place. Yeah, and plus in that scenario you've got higher and lower harmonies above you or not. I find that all very confusing about the delineation of parts, because I would suspect that like what I would suspect you do is like give the mezzo the melody, you take the harmony as a soprano, and then reflect that in the tenor. Give the baritone the melody and have the tenor sing the harmony part. The baritone the melody, tenor sing the harmony part above it. And that way you really know who you're listening to, and you have things grouped in easy to digest kind of oral compartments. With the way that you guys have it laid out, I would suspect that the tenor and the mezzo were sandwiched in between, and it could just all get. But I guess if they were singing in unison, if the tenor and the mezzo were singing in unison, then it might be all right. But you're effectively wasting a voice, because you could have. I guess it ends up being the same anyway, doesn't it? I don't know. That's a really confusing way of organizing the voices. I have to admit, it doesn't surprise me that it was challenging and it destabilized everything and took a little while to get sorted out. If I would try reorganizing it and see if that would work. See if you can organize yourselves so that you have two groups of male melody, but organized in the same way, everything separated by an octave. Because again, if that mezzo's below you, that's effectively a different relationship than two melodies and two harmonies in that orientation. And again, with you singing them, if you're singing the melody in all instances, then I would separate things up into little sectionals. Do your melodic work with the baritone vocalist, and then ideally bring in one harmony vocalist at a time in your rehearsal time. I see your next question there. Yeah, certainly having everybody there would be really, really advantageous. And again, separating up your practice time, get your melody line singers doing their thing, get your harmony singers doing their thing, do one of each, and then start bringing everybody together, and also bring in do both melodies in one harmony, both melodies in both harmonies. By that point, you should be pretty well sorted, I would think. Tom, thanks, man. Appreciate it. I find my ear goes to the strong chord. I will work on. Thanks. Brilliant. Yeah, and please swing back around into another live event and let us know how it's going and if we can help further. Alp, regards, Jeff, and regards to you as well. Tracy's Radiant Ray, happy anniversary, Jeff. Thank you. We appreciate all you do for us. Here is your slice of cake. Thank you. I appreciate the cake, and thank you very much for your kind words. Gerald Ryan, you're welcome. Get some rest. Mrs. Webster, the group name is a bit long. It is a bit long. I'm still totally fine with changing it. I opened it up, and if somebody had a better idea or just anything, suggest anything, because I thought of sequencer because the group was supposed to be in support of the guidebook and sequences, we could share sequences of videos, but we just kind of went off and did our own thing, and which is totally fine. But I'm totally cool with some other kind of name, and it would be awesome if we came as a group to some consensus on what we might call the Facebook group. Because Facebook is this very open platform, where everything kind of comes and goes and all sorts of stuff's going on, and as I wish it to be. So, it's like this is our chat, your live event. I'd like it to be our Facebook group as well. So let's come up with a name. Excellent. Wait, hold on a second here. George, thank you. I'll be doing the super lip trill and trying to improve my air. Brilliant. Keep us posted, which is to say, let me know how it goes. Keep us posted is like a late 90s Bay Area expression, is probably entirely irrelevant in the rest of the world. Excellent. JC's Radiant Ray. Mandy Cummins, happy 1 year, Jeff. Found your channel about 6 months ago, and as I've told you, I really enjoy your videos and find them super helpful. Quite enjoy office hours too. Well, thank you and welcome. Heidi Banker, thank you. Very interesting questions and comments. Thank you for joining us, Heidi. Michael, think sequencer is fine. Sequencer, a global voice. Very interesting. That could be at least a cool tagline. Thank you, Striker. I have to go. So, ruminate on sequencer, a global voice for next time. And perhaps we can discuss it further, or you guys can discuss it while I try to make sure I answer all the questions. Thank you so much. Thank you for an amazing year of live events. I hope that you have as much fun at these as I do, because I really enjoy this and I have such a fun time. I love the questions. So yeah, this is great. Let's look forward to another year of live events and singing and videos and everything else. And as always, thank you. So I'll see you next week. Take really good care of your voices. I just saw the mic drop, and so I was, it's like a deer in the headlights. I was distracted because I love the image of the mic drop, because it grates against all things audio engineer I've ever been taught. Like, the last thing you ever want to do is drop a microphone. Take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing. I will see you next week. Bye.